Hello, everybody. Welcome to Learning Forward Saturday, our show where we meet passionate educators from across the world. Today, I have with me a writer, an actor, a lyricist, and one who has made great use of his mass media studies and skills. He travels all over the world, and guess what he does? Just storytelling. The storytelling he does gets converted into documented life stories, which help all of us pick up life skills and possibly draw a meaning from the experiences which we hear from varied backgrounds. Our multifaceted author tells us. Our talented guest today is perhaps the best a teacher can be. He epitomizes a real teacher, one who lives teaching, one who loves teaching, and one for whom teaching is perhaps everything. Yes, he's a teacher for people from below 10 to people till below 100, and they all learn from him. In the past 10 years, he has traveled from Nepal to Afghanistan to Europe to Africa to America. Yes, he's spoken at the United Nations, a TED speaker, an educator, and above all, he has something what a theatre artist has in him. His spoken word, his poetry, his storytelling, and yes, he even renders his voice to very special people. On my show today is none other than Deepak Ramola, who has just successfully launched a book and is currently meeting people and talking to people about his wonderful book about life lessons. Welcome to Learning Forward, Deepak.
Thank you so much, Sandeep ji, for inviting me. I'm so excited.
Deepak, I know your excitement and I have heard you speak more than once. You kind of mesmerize people, and you are of the firm belief that an educator has to be a storyteller. Share with us why an every educator or a passionate educator should be a storyteller.
Wow, that's a great question. I think just the mere fact that we as human beings, that's what we do all the time. And by do, I mean we live and tell stories, whether we do it consciously or, subconsciously. But we all, when we are narrating to a friend what happened over lunch, when we are telling in a class how Einstein, discovered a whole theory or a mechanism, or when we are discovering, how the tectonic plates shift in a geography class, we all are telling stories. And I think the world now lives in such a factual, news-oriented, 3 seconds attention span sort of a world, that we do need storytellers who are great raconteurs, who can weave and take you on these small journeys so that you can draw your own conclusions. I think what I love about storytellers who are effective and who are articulate is that they allow you to draw your own perspectives and conclusions from it, even before they can tell you what the moral of the story is. And I think the more storytellers we have, Sandeep ji, I think it allows for us to be able to transcend the stereotypes that are linked to often data from one point. And I think there is a beautiful quote I once read that in the end, we will all become stories. And I think that is true. And if we will become at the end a story each, why not start early and get to participate in what that story will be and how it will sound to the rest of the world?
Please stay with us. We will be back after a quick commercial break.
It's been wonderful working with Learning Forward, more so because I've had the golden opportunity of being the founder as well as the sponsor and the first chairperson of Learning Forward India. It was indeed an honor and privilege to stitch together the affiliate and bring in hundreds of people from all over the country as our members. In 3 years, we've come a long way. We have worked with a few dozen schools,
What's most beautiful about Learning Forward is they are committed to raising the bar for the teaching and learning profession. And we as an affiliate strongly support that. And Learning Forward is but a natural step for everyone in life. Affiliate has to live by the spirit of Learning Forward. And not just be in design and policy, but in terms of purely connecting with the educators and helping them appreciate what they are doing. Affiliation is more about appreciating the spirit of learning. To understand the global implication of education, you must become an affiliate.
Yeah, Deepak, you said something very interesting. You said transcend stereotypes.
Yeah.
Share with us why you use transcend stereotypes.
Sure, absolutely. There is, in fact, a very good philosophy that is shared by the Nigerian author Chimamanda Ngozi. And the phrase actually is borrowed from her conversations about why we need storytellers of diverse kinds, because transcending stereotypes means that often the media or the conventional information that we have about a tribe, about a community, about an individual biases us towards them. And in many ways, I think the stereotypes are built on not having interacted, not having met, not having engaged with that person or that community at large. And so we borrow these experiences from people that are, listed in bullet points that have not been really structured into a story. And I think they allows us to only partly enjoy something. It's like somebody is giving you pieces of a pie or a cake to eat and asking you, what do you think the whole cake looks like? I think that's an unfair ask, right? If you give some, you ask them to decipher what the story would be, what the meaning is, they can look at it from, a bigger lens, a more zoomed out lens. Transcending stereotypes is also very important because we live in a very statistically quantified nature of things in the world. 5 people passed away in a train accident, 2 million Syrian refugees in Europe. We've become so number oriented that we forget that it is human beings at the heart of this event. And if you were to take a moment to think about the 5 people who got injured in a train attack or in a protest, or 2 million people, you can spend your lifetime just weaving each individual's story, putting a face to their name, what is their favorite color. And lastly, I think transcending stereotypes is important because it helps us not label people into a certain category and say this is that and now I'm done with this. It encourages us to lean in and find common threads of what connects us and connects them and makes us more alike than unalike.
Thank you, Deepak. You mentioned about information bias.
Yeah.
On a closing note, how do you think that in this information bias world, are we going to learn or take our learning forward?
I think one of the ways, Sandeepji, we could look at, resolving the information bias is by making it more participative and making it more inclusive. When one person gets to tell the story of a larger group, there will be some personal affectations, there will be some personal, filters that a person would apply. In ethnography, interestingly, you have these 2 schools of thoughts. One is the etic perspective, which is the outsider's view on an inside story. And then there is an emic perspective, which is the insider's view on the inside story. And I think that's how we need to be able to mitigate the information bias, is that we need to ensure that it's not always the etic perspective, which is the outsider's perspective to an inside story, but rather an emic perspective. And the more collaborative we are in our education systems about, allowing for different voices to be heard, I think that will be very, very meaningful, particularly with children. I mean, most adults talk on behalf of children and say, this is what they need. but they were a child themselves 30 years ago, and things change every year in the world, with information flood and with technology and with just the whole nature or an ecosystem of learning. So why not make children the stakeholder and bring them as collaborators rather than as beneficiaries? And I think that participative approach, that heuristic approach, sort of, I think, resolves information bias in the long run. It's a cultural shift. It'll take time, but we can get there.
Thank you. May the child in you always be alive and kicking. Because of the child in us, which is an epitome of curiosity, is the child in us which actually has this desire to hear stories. So may the child in us stay alive, and we wish you all the best in your storytelling across the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sandeep ji.